Hello, welcome back to my channel. What are the chances here of Man City finishing in top 4 at the end of the season? In my opinion, quite high, but we're still in a top 4 race. We are currently outside of the top 4. So let's go through the games here. Let's see who's above us and stuff. So, how many points are we on? We're on 34, as you can see here. Behind Newcastle. Newcastle is on very good form right now, so is Nottingham Forest. But I'm not really too concerned about that, and here is why. Newcastle is gonna have good form, especially at home, but they're gonna have a lot of draws throughout the season. They always do have quite a few draws, don't they? So I think they'll drop a few points throughout the season. I think we'll overtake them. I don't think they'll be getting 40 points here in the second half of the season or anything like that. Whereas I do think Man City could get 40 points in the second half of the season. So I'm not worried about Newcastle too much, but we do have to keep an eye on them being ahead of us. Chelsea. Chelsea is dropping down table here, has had a recent bad run of form. And I just want to say, and I know I say this a lot, but if you have a good starting 11, that doesn't mean you're a good team yet. You need to have a good squad. If you have a solid squad with a decent starting 11 and a decent bench, you're going to be comfortably mid-table. If you have a really good starting 11, but your bench is not up to that level, you're going to have a good start to the season. You might even be top of the table, but at some point you're going to have to rely on that bench, or you're going to have to keep playing tired, injured players, and you're going to drop down the table. I think that is what's happening with Chelsea right now. I'm not saying they're going to finish outside of top 4, but I think there's a good chance that both Newcastle and Man City, so ourselves here, do overtake Chelsea. As for Nottingham Forest, I could say the same thing about Nottingham Forest as I just said about Chelsea, except it hasn't happened with Forest yet. The question is, will it happen? Will Forest run out of steam? Will they start dropping down the table? I don't know. I've watched a bit of Forest. They are good, don't get me wrong. They are very solid. They have a very good manager there. Well set up, their players go for it constantly, but I'm not sure. I feel like that Nottingham Forest squad, if something happens to Nordhard, if something happens to Wood, I feel like that Nottingham Forest squad is a lot weaker. Hudson Odoi has been really good this season, so maybe if something happens to him, I don't know. For Nottingham Forest, I'm not going to say anything too confidently. I'm just going to say they may or may not drop down the table. Liverpool, we don't have to worry about Liverpool. Arsenal. Arsenal without Saka has been atrocious, to put it bluntly. Just let's go look through some of Arsenal's games here. They lost to United, by the way. They drew United, they lost on penalties. But if we go through some of these games, I believe Saka got injured after this Everton game or after the Crystal Palace game. I'm not quite sure. So, okay, they had a good game. Then Ipswich Town, they barely win against Ipswich Town at home. Okay, they have another good game. They draw against Brighton. They lose against Newcastle. They draw against Man United. And what I'm saying here is not Arsenal can't win a game anymore. But if you look at this, it's inconsistent. Like 1-3 against Brentford, who has the best home record in the league. 1-5 against Crystal Palace. Then 1-1 against Brighton and 1 barely winning against Ipswich Town. So the reason that this inconsistency is because Saka is the person who tended to bring that opening moment up for Arsenal. He tended to break things open for Arsenal, even if he didn't score himself. He tended to get the second goal often. He often tended to be that special moment. So if you're at a draw, he was that special moment that created the goal, that scored the goal, that assisted the goal. And they don't have that anymore. So they don't have anyone else to do that. Unless they bring someone in, which they won't. Which means they're gonna have a lot of moments here throughout the season, at least until March, when Saka comes back, where they need a special moment to get over something, and they won't. And the difference between a elite team and a mid-table team, an upper mid-table team, is having someone or some people, multiple people, to bring those special moments. Arsenal doesn't have that. And, I mean, Tottenham, they're gonna beat Tottenham. But Aston Villa, I mean, that can be difficult. What if they drop points to Wolves? Man City at home, are they gonna just sit back, defend? Let's assume Man City here has brought in Omar Marmoush, has brought in Echeverri, depends on how effective he is. Savio, Bob, both on the wings again. Marmoush can play as a 10, he can, I've watched him a few times. Haaland up top, I mean, that's gonna be very fluid. I mean, Marmoush can play as a 10, he can play as a left winger, he can play as a right winger, he can play as a striker. Haaland can play as a winger, left or right. He can. I know you guys don't believe it because you haven't watched Dortmund, but he can. Savio can play left, he can play middle, he can play right. And same with Oscar Bob. And Savio and Oscar Bob can both play false 9. That's a very fluid front four. Now, I would imagine Haaland stays up top for most of it, but there are going to be moments when Haaland maybe goes down the wing a bit to create a bit more space, and that type of fluidity, I think Man City will be a lot better again at breaking down deep blocks. At least I hope so. Maybe that's copium. Maybe I'm coping. But yeah, after the Man City game, by the way, they've got Newcastle away. Are they going to throw away that game? Bye-bye Arteta. Surely, bye-bye Arteta at that point. Because they're not winning a title, they're not winning the Champions League. Carabao Cup is all they have left because they're out of the FA Cup already. So, I'm just looking at games here. And by the time they get Saka back, like there's reports about Saka coming back in March. There's also reports about him coming back in September. It's weird. People can't seem to agree when he comes back, but let's assume he comes back in September. I mean, is he gonna have an impact on these two games immediately, right from being back? Then at this point, I think it's too late. By the time you're in April, so I do think Arsenal will drop down the table. Just picking up a few stupid draws or stuff like that. I mean, they should have had a right winger. Let's just be blunt. But now let's talk about Man City, because that is the subject of the video here, I suppose. Man City's top 4 race. Brentford against Man City. That is for me the real test. This is the moment where Man City can prove that we've improved, or where we can prove that we are still same old from last year. If we win, this is when I say, okay, this is turning a corner. This is on to the next, isn't it? So Brentford, that is the important game for me. If we win against Brentford, I really do believe we're going to beat Ipswich. Depending on what transfers we've done, I think we should beat Chelsea and Arsenal. I think Newcastle will be a tough game. I think Liverpool at home, we should get a win or a draw at home, I think. But these are going to be 2 tough games here. Then Tottenham away. I mean, the curse is broken. Tottenham is awful this season. We should win. Then Nottingham Forest, unless they sack Ange by that point. Nottingham Forest and Brighton, I mean, we've got a few... Forest is good this season, but Brighton, Leicester, United, these are a few winnable games. Crystal Palace, Everton. Aston Villa has been poor this season, but they have been improving. They had a poor start to the season, but they've been improving again. Let's go through Aston Villa here. So yeah, if you look at Aston Villa, yeah, a few weird results like this here. But overall, I think recently they've been improving, barely winning over Southampton though. They did win against us. Maybe they haven't been improving. Damn. Maybe they just suck. I say that, and then they're gonna win against us, isn't it? You gotta stay humble, eh? You gotta stay humble, eh? But no. If I look around who we have left to play, allocation and stuff like that, if it's like home and away and stuff, I think we should be top 4. I think FA Cup, go full strength in it. We're a bit lucky here. We got an easy draw in the FA Cup, so go full strength. Go full strength. In that FA Cup. get at least 40 points in the Premier League season here in the second half of the season. That should get us to 74, if I remember correctly. So 74 points, that should be enough. That should be enough to get top 4. Now I just want to check previous seasons, how much you needed to get top 4. So last season, 68 points got you top 4. The season before that, 71 points. Before that was 71 again, and before that was 67. So yeah, if we get to 74 points, I'm feeling quite confident in saying that we should be top 4 here. And I think we can get to 74 points. So what other teams do around us, I'm not really sure, but I think we should be comfortably top 4. If you agree, disagree with me, tell me down below. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, because we're getting a bit closer to 600 now. I'm hoping to get to 1,000 by the end of the season. Not quite sure if that's realistic or not, but let's see if we can get there. I'll see you guys, I suppose, on the next one. Oh yeah, go check out my watch-alongs, by the way, if you're into that. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.